just having a variety of programming skills is really attractive to an employer.
Not only skills in doing that, but how artificial intelligence sort of works.
Most GI science academic jobs are now being focused. It's either health geography or, like where you can apply the work that you've been doing.
Pushing yourself beyond what you would typically know in like your GIS suites from schools.
And more about the people skills, the communication, management, teaching.
The first question, during your job hunting, what key skills and qualifications do you think employers typically look for when hiring in the GIS or cartographer field?
I have a few different perspectives. I'll focus on, I think my time at Apple Maps, I think I'll focus on that because that's kind of a unique case study. And so I think it's really important to have a strong set of not only like programming skills, but also like really having a strong fundamental knowledge of like cartography or GI science or whatever concentration that you're focusing on. And so for me, I was working with the cartography team at Apple Maps, and during the interviews, it was really important in order to like demonstrate that I have this strong knowledge of cartography, and the different questions that they asked were really challenging, but they're also I was able to answer them because of the experience that I have. And so having a strong understanding of the fundamentals and being able to apply like the different theories and things like cartographic interaction primitives was really important to know. And so yeah, I think having a really strong knowledge base is the starter. And I think other people will say this, but just having a variety of programming skills is really attractive to an employer, ranging from Python to like things like R.
I agree with that from the industry perspective, especially with the programming. And I think more recently, probably artificial intelligence too is really attractive. So having not only skills in doing that, but how artificial intelligence sort of works would be really a good skill to have from the industry perspective. And from the academic perspective, obviously, some of the skills that they're looking for is that you can publish, and that you can get external grant money. Those two things I think are probably the most important from the academic perspective. And so I think, as a PhD student, one of the questions we had was like year 1 to 4, sort of what should you be thinking about? And so if you're in academia, I would, try really, really hard to publish your dissertation or your thesis research, and that can be really, really valuable, I think, during your interviews, showing that you're able to do that.
So yeah, I think just to add on to those very key things that Aaron and Tim mentioned, I have also worked in at Carto, which is like a web-based mapping company, and there I think what I realized was really missing in my skill set at that point, which was like 6-7 years ago, was basically like managing data effectively. So creating like pipelines to clean the data efficiently, because usually in these like urban analytical applications, you're dealing with a lot of data. So I think that is something that needs to be really incorporated in your skill set, because you'll be found wanting, and you will not feel like you can do justice to the data that you have your hands on these days, especially. So in addition to coding and of course like other skills, I think database management is a big thing. I also feel like web-based mapping softwares are something that people are really looking for in industry these days, like, which is not to just say like tech industry, but also other applications, so like health kind of companies, and they're looking to do those kind of things. And like Adam said, in academia, of course, you do need to publish well and have great communication skills and presentation skills. But also what I've seen in the job market last year was that most GI science academic jobs are now being focused towards 1 or 2 application areas. So it's either health geography or like some sense of like where you can apply the work that you've been doing. So I think it's really beneficial for students at this point to start looking at those avenues of their, like, especially if you're coming from spatial statistics or spatial analytics, you have to know where your model can be applied to. And then having 1 or 2 of those case studies under your back can really be helpful to, showcase your work. But yeah, I think those ones are important.
I think a lot of what I have to say echoes what everyone else has said. Really pushing yourself beyond what you would typically know in like your GIS suites from school. So moving beyond ArcGIS into R is something that I think is really crucial now to have for employers, but also know that if you say that on your CV, you're probably going to be tested on it. For instance, I had like a technical test that I had to take when I got my job that showed that not only did I say I could do R, but I could do R, and I could also articulate what my results meant. So it was kind of a test of all the things that everyone was saying. You have to have the skills, but then you also have the skills to articulate your results in a meaningful way that could lead to publication or talking to other people at your institute or wherever you end up working. So I think that proficiency is really important. I also wanted to pick up on something Aaron had said about AI. AI is something that comes up almost weekly at my work now. So I think having an understanding of how AI might impact the GIS world is pretty important, and knowing how you would respond to someone asking you a question about, okay, so how are you going to handle AI in your job? Or how do you think AI is going to change your job is something to think about a little bit.
I will add a couple of points. So my sort of experience with what industry kind of asks for is from just going through a lot of job applications and reading a lot of positions that exist, because I cannot apply to everything. So I think in the industry, they develop their products, either it's a cloud product or a service or something like that. So they would look for somebody who would be a developer for whatever they're putting out. So this means that the tools would be whatever is needed for the product lifecycle, sort of. So think programming languages, databases, product deployment, testing, and so on. Sometimes, there are these like full stack jobs and so on. And if we are looking from the perspective in GIS, sometimes there's this like very programming job, but it says with GIS. So there are positions that have specifically a spatial component in them, but they are still very technical. So of course, there's a route for data science, machine learning, AI, and again, all these three fields think the entire life cycle. So they would want you to put out and deploy a product like a final dashboard or an app that uses machine learning and AI, and something that can be implemented into their entire workflow. There is sometimes a route for research in the industry. So like Microsoft sometimes puts out positions in research, and other companies. It is rare, and they usually have like very specific skill that they're looking for. Like for example, in Microsoft, there's a lot of AI research. In terms of the academia, it's less about the technical stuff and more about the people skills, the communication, management, teaching, how much of the general academic experience you have. At the postdoc level, the positions usually request advanced technical skills, so they would want you to do Python, PostGIS, MongoDB, and all of those stuff, because they want to fulfill their projects, and oftentimes the GIS project nowadays are pretty technical. And when we're talking about like further up positions like assistant professor, they would weigh your ability to be an assistant professor, more than just your ability to use like R or Python. So ability to get the funding, ability to publish, and so on. So publications is kind of the things that the search committees will look for, but then they will also have an interview, and they will kind of get a sense of whether they like you or not. So this is my experience.